All right, let's kick off the week. Welcome into the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, David Sisboomba. And for our Leaf edition that no longer has the Leafs playing.
That won't stop us, though. We can generate something.
Actually, I think the ratings go up when they stop playing and we start talking about the Leafs when they get knocked out. Wherever you are, though, we're glad you're aboard. Sportsnet 590, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus from 4 to 6. And wherever you get your pod when you can't catch us live. So we'll dive right into it. Plenty to talk around the National Hockey League, which we will later on in the show, including our National Hour, as Susie gets a hearing for his cross-check to McDavid. We'll get into that a little later in the show.
Canucks win. Canucks win.
The Canucks win.
This is cross-checking.
Yes.
But in the meantime, coaching spots are open. We expect coaching spots to get filled as early as this week, including here in Toronto, where Craig Berube's been interviewed. As
twice, apparently.
As Todd McLellan, who right now just seems to be a two-horse race.
So does that mean Quenneville is not a horse?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last week, where the league's open to revisiting Joel Quenneville. It just won't happen fast enough for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Wow. Do you think the league would want to keep him out of Toronto because that would heighten the scrutiny?
No, I think if they do let him back in, they want to do it at their pace, at their in their comfort zone. The last thing that they want to do is look like they're bending over backwards for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's
yet another case, Sam, of the Leafs getting.
Yeah,
it's not
that one. Yeah, it's not a good look around the league. That all of a sudden the doors open up because it's the Leafs that may be interested in Joel Quenneville. So now you are, in a race for a head coach.
Yeah,
because there's other spots being open. That's why you can't necessarily wait for Joel Quenneville.
Musical chairs here.
Or you can't even really, or maybe you can, depending, and I'll get your thoughts on this, Rod Brind'Amour. I've said it right from the get-go, and this is prior to what we watched here in the second round against the New York Rangers, but Rod Brind'Amour wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, well, they got swept, though, right? Isn't that what I heard last show? Wasn't that the Canes were already eliminated?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't that
who said that?
I believe that was you.
Oh, yeah.
Does that...
Oh, they won one game. Congratulations.
Does that change anything moving forward if they lose in 5 games?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
The fact that they've been negotiating the coach's contract throughout playoffs, I think that would mean, let's say they lose in 5. If you're Dundon, you could say, well, you're not that great. You keep losing in 5. I'm not going to pay you. You want 6, I'm going to give you 3. And then maybe that makes Brind'Amour go, bye-bye. You're cool. You're cool. None of you are cool, actually.
Is the shine off Brind'Amour a little bit with disappointing playoff runs the last 2 years?
I made my point very clear, I think, on the weekend that, I think he's fancier Sheldon Keefe in a lot of ways.
I actually think that's a great point.
I do. I really feel that they're very similar sort of philosophies when Sheldon came here. Hold the puck, shoot the puck, have the puck, all the time, have the puck. I guess that's the point of the game. But there's a lot of similar sort of systems.
Rod's teams go north a bit.
Yeah, a bit more. But I just feel like it's kind of if you're going to be doing a crazy move here where you're bringing another coach, you kind of want like the screamy old tough guy kind of coach here now, as opposed to like
Rod's tough.
Yeah.
I do, but I don't think it's. I don't know. Like, is he a player's coach?
All I know is we had Rod Brind'Amour on our show. I don't know if you guys remember this. Our first year,
we did.
And one of my questions to him was, I'm surprised that your teams aren't more in your image. Like I remember, I told him that I thought his teams were like puck possession, fancy teams compared to how he played.
What do you think about that?
And he was not happy with that.
Really? Was that on our show?
Well, maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
Was it Hockey Central? I don't remember. I don't remember this.
He sees himself as having hard-nosed teams, even though they score and they create. He thinks his teams are hard-nosed. So I think he would be a great fit here.
We do not agree.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great fit here.
You don't watch the game very well?
Is that bad?
That's a great drop.
I don't know
Yeah.
who that is. I don't
Lindy
know who that-
Ruff.
Lindy Ruff.
Yeah.
But there is a race right now because New Jersey's looking for a coach.
But you seem to hold on this Brindamore thing.
Yeah.
You think there's a chance? A puncher's chance?
No,
okay.
I think it's a long shot at best. And I'll stick to what I've been saying
Okay.
all along was that the Rangers really, really pushed hard for him prior to going and getting Peter Laviolette. And they drew it out as long as they could.
Mm.
And
Couldn't pry him out.
couldn't pry him out, even with the thought that he'd be paid. They'd make him the highest paid coach in the league.
I'm not leaving.
I could see Rod as like
Now, what changed?
making $100,000 a year being the skills coach for the Canes or something.
Does he get tired of his owner right now with a loss?
That's the only
in the
possibility
series?
is that the owner uses the loss, a potential loss, as an excuse to lowball him and it offends him and he says bye.
Listen, he's nuts if he's gonna try to play that game already with him.
He is nuts.
Yeah, he is nuts.
Yeah.
So,
We've established that.
yeah.
but the terrifying thing, and this is all nice to talk about from a Leafs fan perspective here, that like in this pie in the sky scenario where the guy that says he's never leaving and had an opportunity to be the Rangers coach, and he's like, maybe he'll leave this time.
Yeah.
If you're waiting around,
You're chasing
And-
Ohtani.
you're looking. Oh God, don't remind me. And you're looking for, you're potentially losing out on your other guys like Berube or McLellan, who they love, or like Glenn. Like all these guys are going to get jobs because there's so many openings. There's so many teams looking for it. Like you may be left holding the bag here, where you don't get one of your top options because you're waiting on Brindamore. But the flip side of that, what if he does leave and you hired Todd McLellan?
Mhm.
That's the delicate balance and why Brad Treliving makes the big bucks, I guess, and why you figure it out.
I'll play the other side of it. What happens if you don't name a coach this week, and then you watch Berube go to New Jersey,
Mhm.
or
You could get a Sheldon Keefe then.
Everything's
Right?
great.
like you also have to play. If we name someone as early as Thursday and we meet the right price, which is never a problem here,
Right.
then you get the guy that is out there right now and you get first dibs on him. If you let New Jersey come in and swoop up maybe Berube, then now you've missed the boat.
Mhm. I wonder if they are waiting to see if the Canes lose tonight before they hire someone to at least have a phone call to Brindamore and be like, we need to have some idea if there's any chance.
I mean, that's playing a dangerous game to me. And like the part of it that if you want to wait for Brindamore, a lot of the guys in the free agent market right now, the hot names that everybody's talking about, to me, they're all very like, I don't know, similar.
Yeah.
Like it's not like any of them to me move the needle that much. Like
Yeah.
people will say Berube, Cup winner, whatever. Like, but none of them really are like huge difference makers to me. So if you want to wait, you think Rod's the guy, maybe you do. But boy,
Yeah.
it's a dangerous game, like I said.
So what would you do right now? Would you name Berube as Thursday or Friday as your head coach here?
Probably.
Why is it going to be so long? I can't hire him tomorrow.
I would probably
Oh,
just.
listen, they could,
Yeah.
but I would think that even if they've identified it, even if
The
the
contract, right?
the contract signed, all of that, I don't know. Like they just interviewed him again on the weekend.
Right.
Like,
Listen,
I
I'm
would
not
think Thursday or Friday would give people enough time to breathe.
Time.
I'm not the person that they came here to hear that from. Who do you think they should hire? What do you think they should do? That's the question. You, Kippy. You, Barney.
Yeah, I like the thought of a kind of a hard nosed kind of guy like Craig Berube.
Mm.
I like Brindamore too.
Mhm.
It doesn't. Listen, the whale out there would have been John Cooper, prying Cooper away from Tampa. That's not happening.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he
the-
called Jim Montgomery to tell him how to
That's-
beat the Leafs, so I don't think he's
Not
coming
rooting
here.
for the Leafs.
that's the ultimate home run. But
Maybe
that's
he wanted the job to open up.
That's not happening. But it's someone that could take a little bit of that warm blanket that Kyle Dubas and Sheldon have put and wrapped around the players the last few years, and Berube won't do that.
Yeah.
He'll make them a little uncomfortable.
For sure. And I do think that the team needs that. They need some discomfort. They need they need someone a little bit different, and that's fine, because that's sort of some of the texts I get from people around the inside of the group is that guys just, they want it to stay how it is. Everyone's getting exactly what they want right now, and they're not winning, but there's no punishment for that. So yes, I like that idea. I do. My only qualms with Berube, and I'll be honest, are just the media side of it. This is a tough media market. Sheldon Keefe was really good at saying very little, but still saying enough.
But Sheldon had a very good relationship with a lot of people, and you could tell that it served him well when he left too, because people were praising him, class move, and he started showing that he was a real coach towards the end, although it's debatable a little bit, on things that you liked and things that you still didn't like about his coaching styles. Mm-hmm. But it opened up enough where people are really pushing him and think that if New Jersey does not get Berube or McLellan, that he would be in line to get that job
in Jersey.
The
one thing I was thinking,
that terrifies me.
Oh yeah, you go to Jersey, suddenly get a goalie.
You get they trade for Markstrom. They get all their guys
Dougie
healthy.
Hamilton comes back. All of a sudden, they could just be
110 points
on fuego.
That does concern me.
You can see that happen.
Absolutely.
That's happening. That's going to happen whether Sheldon's there or not.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
They're a team that's trending upwards.
Yeah, it's a great job to get. The one thing that did cross my mind is everyone was so complimentary about Sheldon on the way out the door. Is like, I'm sure MLSE would like to have that salary off their books. Now, when you fire a guy and another team hires him, do they pay that salary then? So he makes the same amount of money, unless they give him a bit more, but they pick it up.
They're dumb. Those coaches are dumb. They're dumb.
Why are they dumb?
Because they need to be like a player getting bought out. You get fired, you owe me the $2 million, and then if I go find another job and they owe me $2 million. Sheldon.
Yeah, Ryan Suter's getting like 7 different paychecks.
Sheldon should be getting paid $2 million from New Jersey, and totally he should be making $4 million next year.
Yes.
2 from the Leafs, 2 from New Jersey.
For sure he should.
But that's not the way it works.
No. And is that on the coaches' union or their contract structure or what?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, then if
the union, it doesn't matter. Somebody made a bad decision.
Take a year off, brother. Take that free money.
That's partially my theory is if you're MLSE on the way out the door, it's really smart to be like, this guy was an unbelievable coach. Can't even believe we had him. I guess someone's going to
why we fired him.
Yeah, and then someone else maybe more eager to pick that money up.
Craig Berube will not be known as a soundbite here.
Well, that's what I mean.
Our Kippers Clippers are toast.
We're going to have Kippers clip every day. One interesting thing per day. But there is more to being a head coach in this market. And I wrote this about Sheldon last week. There's more to being a head coach in this market than just coaching a team. And I think he grew in that regard, how to handle the media, the alumni, the yada, yada, yada. And Berube seems like a guy who wants to coach a hockey team.
Yeah. You got to
come here and be.
I'm not saying that you got to kiss ass here, but you got to work it a little bit. Kyle worked it unbelievably. It wasn't hard to figure out who Kyle worked in the media.
Yes. He did, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
He had his people.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So, and I think a lot of people, Shrelevan is a great example of a guy with tremendous relationships with the media.
Not making it that obvious.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Because everybody's got people.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. It's not making that obvious. And if Berube can handle that, all that other stuff, then great. I think he'll be as good as any other coach, X's and O's wise. Totally fine. And hopefully a little bit more, let's go win one for this guy.
Win one for the Gipper.
Than old Sheldon was.
So can we drill down on McLellan? What do you guys know or think about McLellan? Because he seems like he's a very close to potentially one of the guys.
For me, I think what hurts him is
losing everywhere he goes.
Lack of success.
A lot of round. I'm looking at his page here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times that he's coached a team that's lost in the first round. So
does he have any deeper success? Has he had
lost in round? So this is starting from 2009 to 2008, 2009 with the San Jose Sharks. Lost in round 1, lost in round 3, lost in round 3, lost in round 1, lost in round 2, lost in round 1, out of playoffs, lost in round 2, out of playoffs, lost in round 1, lost in round 1. Fired midseason this year.
Yeah, I mean
he'll fit right in.
Couple deeper runs early in his tenure there. To me, I don't think he's a bad coach. I don't.
I don't think he's a bad coach either. But
You know, to me, he's like the replacement level guy. He's fine.
the one thing I do like is that
Good drop.
that Berube has a little bit of that, like,
I'm the boss.
Not only did I play, I really played.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I played.
He's got that. He's got
Hard.
that Rick Tocchet.
Absolutely.
I played that. You're telling me that I invented that crap,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. You
And
can call
that's-
a bluff a little
that's what-
easier.
That's where like McLellan doesn't have that. There's a lot of coaches that don't have it.
Neither
not
did
that
Babs,
you need
neither
it. Not that
Sheldon.
it's a must.
Yeah.
Not that you can't win a Stanley Cup without it. I just think Berube would be an easier guy to look Austin and a few others in the eye and say,
Not buying that. Give me your real effort.
I think you're trying hard enough. No.
1,054 games for Berube with 3,149 penalty minutes.
That's the edge that I also like from Berube.
That's a lot of pims.
A
Yeah.
lot of pims. It's a violent.
But he's not he didn't coach St. Louis like that.
No,
you
he's
know,
a
not.
smart guy. They didn't have a bunch of heavies there that ran
Right.
around like idiots. They had guys that played physical and hard. But their cup-winning team with Shen and Barbashev, and they were just a heavy
Love that
quality
team.
team. Yeah.
Love that team.
All right. Good on coaches.
Yeah, good on coaches. One thing that we haven't discussed yet is the Leaf current captain.
Yes. Luke
John
Fox
Tavares.
has an article on him today.
Luke Fox has an article on sportsnet.ca talking about
Captain Canada.
Captain Canada, which was usually reserved
For
for
Ryan Smith.
Because he was out of the playoffs every year, wasn't he not?
I actually used to call this the Danny Heatley tournament, where he was playing in it every year after the Sens lost in the first round. But
Danny
So-
Heatley tournament.
Fancy
I
tournament.
did read the article, but how would you characterize the topic? Would it be, why did you go?
I characterize the topic as there is an awkward situation between the Leafs and Tavares right now, trying to figure out what to do with his contract, his captaincy, and then highlighting that this guy is someone who doesn't turn down invitations to play for his country. He's a rink rat. This guy still loves hockey and still wants to be a part of something that matters, I think is a relevant note there too. Tavares has won junior gold twice, Olympic gold, World Cup gold, Spengler Cup gold. Only thing he doesn't have is this World Championship gold. So
interesting. I think
Would you put him in the International Hockey Hall of Fame?
I think it's we had this conversation. I think it's gonna be real hard to keep him out if he has gold in every single tournament.
he'll be in
And
the Hockey
he's the
Hall of-
81st highest scoring
I'm
player.
not
And
convinced
no,
he's
NHL
going to
history.
the Hockey Hall of
We
Fame.
know that, Kyper, but he's going to be.
Is he?
For sure. Everybody gets in the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's not the most strict Hockey
no.
Hall of Fame. Unless you're Alex McGill, you're getting in.
No. That was the case 3 or 4 years ago. Now it's a lot harder to get in.
I think
You're not guaranteed with 1,000 points in 1,000 games to get in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
He's going to play another handful of years. He's going to have another X amount of points. If he finds, if he wins
Okay.
gold in this.
And maybe that's one of the reasons why he's playing in this tournament. I think, for me, just hearing that he's going over there, because a lot of people say that I'm not a top player anymore. A lot of people say I can't play top 6. Am I a checker now? I'm gonna go here and not only prove that I can play, but guess what? I'm the captain too. You guys want to take the C off me in Toronto, and I'm the captain of Team Canada. Maybe that's another reason why.
Yeah.
I think
So-
you want to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, maybe. So-
Honestly, I think that's part of it too. He's a robot, and
But
he
it's
deals with the
helped-
deals with the media well.
It actually is a
Couple
good,
weeks in
it's a
Prague
good
sounds great.
strategic move for his career,
No question.
right?
Absolutely.
And it's also
in what way?
it's also good for the Leafs.
How does it help him?
Just play well and win.
And what,
That's
to look like a winner? Is that
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And it could help the Leafs, in terms of moving him.
So he has a $7.04 million direct deposit set to hit his count July 1st.
How
Yeah.
much?
$7.04 million.
Oh, sick.
just drop in your
gotta feel
checking.
great.
Yeah.
That's what Kipper's checks
Which-
look like.
Which I will remind he does have to pay taxes on.
Something happened with it?
That does come up sometimes. And after that, he'll make $910,000.
Yeah. Which
And
would be
make him a very appealing asset.
for sure. As long as you don't care about cap space.
Right. Which, say, Columbus, Chicago, Anaheim, a lot of those teams wouldn't.
Sharks.
Yeah.
Sharks, for sure.
So it won't be necessarily a a first rounder to go at like Patrick Marleau,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't need it.
No, you don't.
You're sending a guy that can score you 55, 60 points, and you're sending a guy that could look the part of a captain for Team Canada.
Yeah.
So why do I have to attach anything to that other than give you the asset?
Yeah. And, you could have this conversation. I could see it happening in season as you get towards deadline. If you want to retain half the hit and say he's cheap, we'll take some of the hit. We're looking to do something else. But Luke's article has a list of the high-end centers to hit unrestricted free agency this summer. Matt Duchene, who's 33, had 25 and 65 points, 25 goals, 65 points. Sean Monahan, 26 and 59. Chandler Stevenson, 16 and 35. Lindholm had 15 goals and 44 points. Tavares had 30 goals and 65 points.
Lindholm.
29 goals and 65 points.
Lindholm's looking great for the Canucks.
I know.
By the way. Anyways.
But the point is that Tavares is not a non-asset. He's an asset.
He is.
And to your point, it's not going to cost you to move.
Yes, that's right. And he's an asset that can help you make the playoffs. He's done it every year for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part, he can't help you win a Stanley Cup.
Hasn't.
Or go deep, in this instance, here in Toronto. So you're not going to try to play that same song again next year.
I'm sure they would like to move on because that's a lot of cap space.
And if you're able to move that, I think you'd be less inclined to trading Mitch Marner, to me. I don't know. The more I've thought about that, it's just, how is that going to happen?
Some time for sure with Marner.
How is it going to happen? The more I'm thinking about it, it's like, why is he going to wave?
Well,
Who, Mitch or John?
Mitch.
Why is John going to?
What? Okay, hold on. One free agent at a time here.
Well, Mitch.
Okay, who are we talking about?
Well, John, I just think he's going to be gone at the end of the season anyway. They're part of it. I think it'd be an easier conversation to me.
But he might play here for $2 million. Tavares is a Toronto boy.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot harder to get both these guys to go than I originally kind of thought, is what I'm getting at here.
I think for me personally, I don't know whether or not, like Mitch, if we're going to talk about both of them right now, okay, Mitch is a entirely different conversation because it's got to revolve around, are you willing to give him 8 years at $12.5 million? I don't see the Leafs going there at all. Do you?
No.
I don't see Mitch taking a pay cut. Do you?
To stay here, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I don't see him taking a pay cut.
So where's the conclusion other than to trade him this summer?
There's no other conclusion.
Okay. We good on that?
Sure.
All right. Tavares, you got to get $11 million off the cap. Do you want to wait another year to do it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you don't. I know you're right. The stats you brought up there about how he is, the comparable with those guys. Maybe you can, but I guess I have a hard time picturing both of them saying yes, I'll waive. That's the more I've thought about it. That's the more they have full
Mitch
move.
Mitch
wants to
there's
get that
no
money.
reason why Mitch should want to stay if he's not getting a new contract.
But you think he's going to go somewhere and immediately
Do you know
control
do you know how tough it would be on him personally if everybody knew that he did not waive his no move clause to stay here, knowing that he's not going to be around next year?
So they would.
Do you have any idea how ugly that is?
Purgatory. Yeah, that's a
for him?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
convincing me. Okay.
He doesn't want to subject himself or his family to that.
And I got to tell you, if I'm another team looking at this situation, I'm thinking, how do we get him?
How do we get him?
That's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know people talk about, he hasn't done it in the playoffs yet. It's like, he hasn't yet, but it doesn't mean he won't.
So let me give you a scenario for Tavares now.
Okay.
He says, no, I want to stay. And you're Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving. You say, okay. So we'll pay you your $7 million signing bonus and your $900,000 salary, and you will play with you all season long. Yes or no? Is that what they say, Brendan and Brad?
What? Well,
okay, because you said no. Now we're just going to keep you.
If he were a non-asset, I could see them being like, then sit in the press box. Like, if he's going to give you 60 points and he's a centerman, you already need another centerman. Like, tough to go out and find 2 good centermen if you sit him in the press box. I think they would. Don't you think they'd play him?
No. I think it could get ugly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. It hasn't happened in the history of the league that I'm aware of.
Tell me something. You start with taking. Do you think you should be the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs next year?
No.
Okay, that's a starting point.
I told you
in
2 years
itself.
ago.
It's in itself as a starting point. Does John want to come back next year getting stripped his captaincy?
No, but he might value $11 million pretty highly, and
He's getting it anyways.
being here.
Again,
Yeah.
like now you're starting to pin the player against the organization and the town. So we're taking the captaincy away from you, and you're saying, do it. I'm still not going anywhere. How is that a healthy environment for anybody?
It's not. And you know what actually might have some input on this? That he has already left one town in flames. Like, it already feels like he can't go back to Long Island and be feted for all the accolades he deserves. He was a wonderful Islander, but people there, he's a snake. That's that's his reputation. If I'm him, I'm like, look, if I gotta go, I gotta go, because I'm not having in my hometown a place where people don't want me around.
And that's the beauty of even if you have no move clause, that's one thing. But to have a club basically tell you you're no longer wanted here and you want to stick around and everybody knows it is not healthy for anyone.
No.
And that's where John has to go. Do I want to be the guy? You're telling me you want my $11 million. At the end of the day, you're not mad at me. It is what it was. I provided you with 80 points. It just didn't turn out to be deep in the playoffs or a Stanley Cup. We're still fine here. But John now saying, I don't move now. Now you're parading to the whole city that we could really use his cap space and he's selfishly going to absorb it himself and we're going to go and have a great season.
What if you weren't, I mean,
So
you don't have to say that. You can just say, he has a no trade clause and we're not asking him about it.
So
even if you do ask him, you don't have to bury the guy.
But I mean, one of the
Unless you want
strategies
to bury.
is to play dirty, though.
Yes, and
One of
that's
the
what we're talking
strategies
about for sure.
is you have to acknowledge that we need to make changes here. If we bring you back and Mitch back and the only thing we've done is change a coach,
Ain't
it's
enough.
not good enough for everybody. They will burn us all, okay? We'll all go down in flames now.
Yeah.
And John, you're going over to Prague right now to show everybody you can still play and you got lots of juice and you're,
I think he assisted on the OT winner.
you got a ton to play for here. You don't want to stick around here so we can just kick you out the door a year later or make you or offer you $1.5 million to stick around to be what? A fourth line centerman?
It's tough, man, because he's been a good Maple Leaf, Like, he's a low event sort of.
You know what? Okay. Been fine. Didn't lead anywhere. Okay? Didn't lead anywhere. He's okay. He's fine. Didn't get the job done.
It's one thing, to talk about him and act like he didn't get the job done. The team has lost in Game 7 several times.
They're all in it.
I'm
not blaming John.
And he's been nothing, low maintenance. He says the right things. He does the right things. He works his ass off. He's everything you ask from a guy.
Very safe.
He's very safe.
Very safe.
Sure.
But it's
Call it
all,
unsexy if you like. He's been.
It's kind of over, though, right? It's kind of over.
Yeah.
It's time for people to kind of move on. John doesn't want to shut down at 34. He still can put 50, 60 points up. He's just got to do it somewhere else now.
Can't you see John Tavares becoming Corey Perry? Not in terms of the wormliness, but the happy to play in the NHL, even if it's fourth line on a cup contender and do the right things. I can see him trying to stay in the league as long as he can.
No, I don't see him. No. When he's been the best player since he first put on skates, from the Toronto Marlies to the Islanders to Oshawa to he's always been the best. He won't be good at a third or fourth line role.
I don't know. He wins faceoffs. He's strong.
No.
I can see him doing it.
You've convinced me. I was thinking about this all weekend. I think with at least too much, but I just picturing them waving and both of them saying okay. But all the stuff you're saying, you're convincing me, Kippy. So
That he'll.
That both of them would waive.
Yeah.
It's just time. It's just time. Don't make. You don't have
The
to make
Marner
it
one
up.
sucks bad though.
Which one?
It sucks, Marner, the trade. Like the fact that we've all agreed on the fact that you have to trade a 26-year-old 100-point winger in his prime. That part does suck.
When it's all said and done,
It makes you nervous.
moving
Goes to play
forward,
for
like,
Sheldon, New Jersey.
even before things got ugly again in the playoffs, you gave 92 to Willie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gave 13.5 to Matthews. Like, you can't keep giving these guys
Everything.
12 or 13, and there's too many of them.
The time to trade Marner was last offseason. If you were going to do it.
But that's why Shanny probably deserves a little bit more heat, because that breakup with Kyle going down the way it did took away from a pivotal time to make a roster decision that,
Willie
you
or
had a
him.
new GM coming in going, I'm not coming in and trading Mitch Marner, or whatever.
Let's break and get the books, and we can talk more about this stuff.
Okay, listen, we haven't even discussed, like, okay,
what?
Easy decision to tell Johnny no longer can be the captain. Is it that simple that you're just going to give it to Austin?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, probably.
So we should have a conversation.
Wants
he put it on Mitch's shirt when Mitch goes to play for Jersey.
MLC wants to sell some jerseys.
All right.
Well, except Pelly said he didn't want to do that.
All right. Listen, I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying it's worth a conversation.
Sure.
After the break, more Real Kyper and Bourne. Back in studio on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. All right, plenty to still dissect out of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maybe we'll have that captaincy conversation moving forward here. But in the meantime, let's welcome in Jason Bukala, former NHL head scout, writer for Sportsnet.ca, and a friend of the show. Books, what's going on?
Oh, not too much. Just working on a Toronto Maple Leaf organizational breakdown that's going to drop tomorrow on .ca. And as you guys can well imagine, when you go right from the top through the entire organization, including draft capital, future cap, et cetera, it's been a daunting task. And I've been trying to have as limited amount of bias as possible through the process.
Where do you start? Like, if you were to prioritize some of the things that you're talking about, what would be the most challenging or concerning to you? Is it the salary cap? Is it the lack of assets? Like, where do you begin?
Well, the first thing you do is you take a look at what your cap scenario looks like off season and beyond. That's the first thing on the pro side. And that's even before you go into the evaluation of the roster. You take a look at how much money you have to work with, what's coming off the books, what could potentially come on the books is a secondary discussion. On the other side of the ledger, you start to go through the organization and your own depth chart and place realistic value on what you believe your depth looks like and what it might look like to a team outside your organization. That's delicate, isn't it? Because teams tend to fall in love with their own. That's why, like when I was in Florida, for example, Kyper, and even when you and Caber and I were at the Memorial Cup there in Shawinigan, if you remember back then, we're sitting there and Caber's like, and I'm like, Caber, just let's let it simmer for a bit, because you can't fall too in love with these guys. This is what we like now that might not play out. And for the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's been a heavy lift for me. I'm not going to lie. There's not a lot there to work with depth wise. That's a challenge, Kyper. And then Barney on the draft side, you look at draft capital. You look at the cupboards and what you don't have to work with, I guess is the best way to put it. So there's your starting point. And then, of course, you go on, from there to evaluate your roster. And if you're getting the value out of your roster in all positions, cap relation wise, and then you start to pinpoint exactly where your weaknesses are, where you need to beef up better, and what it's going to cost to do that. So, full disclosure, I'm looking at the Tavares and Marner situations. I mean, I think we all are, right? The two of you guys are probably as well. And I'm looking at the value of the contract. I'm looking at the no moves. I'm looking at a variety of different things. The reality for me is that both of them will not be able to be moved out in the same calendar year. It's going to be one year, and then one's going to expire the next year. That's my guess. The other thing is that on the trade market, if I'm if I'm advising Tree and, Derek Clancy for these guys in the upper management team, expect to lose a trade on paper when you're looking at Marner. So if you trade him on 70 cents on the dollar, for example, what you're doing, though, is you're opening up the coffers to spend elsewhere. So I would put it back on you two. Would the team have looked better this spring without even addressing the goaltending yet? Would the team have looked better this spring with, say, a Montour and a Zadorov on the back end instead of Marner? And those are the types of questions you start to ask yourself.
I'm not equipped to answer that, but watching Ole Zadorov for Vancouver, it certainly makes you think maybe at least you're actually getting more offense out of. He's been piling it in the net for him. So those are the tough questions they have to have. How much of a big picture view would an organization take heading into the summer? Like, I imagine Shree and Shanny go into a room. They got all the names, the magnetic names on a whiteboard, and they say, what do we want this to look like next year? What questions do we have to answer? They have so many UFAs, Books. Can they make any decisions before they find out about Marner and Tavares' answers?
That's a great question and an enormous challenge. So thank you for putting that on me, because what you have is control over those assets until July 1st. So it's a two-headed monster. My first inclination is that you're not going to get an answer. Well, I think you will get an answer out of Tavares. I think Tavares is just going to be a no. Like he's coming back. That's my belief at this point. I do believe that Mitch might be open to a conversation. Now, the only reason I say that is because here's a fantastic player. Let's call a spade a spade. He's an elite talent in the National Hockey League who hasn't got it done with his group in the playoffs. Okay, not just him, his group in the playoffs. So his value out on the market is, if you're shopping him to say Columbus, for example, there's market value there for sure. That team needs to go to another level, even in regular season. They've got Fantilli there. They got some nice parts, right? Goudreau, I know it's a smaller team, but I'm just spitballing. What I'm trying to tell you is that he might be open to that conversation, which opens up a Pandora's box of opportunity before the draft. Because if you target a lottery team, and hopefully a high-end lottery team, you're definitely going to be looking at trying to get a first-round pick in return. And then the secondary asset might not make the market super excited, but then you have to remember the money that's coming off the books, right? So it's got a lot of moving parts that way. As far as the other UFAs go, you have control of them to July 1st, but if they're not going to sign and they have a known interest in going somewhere else, would you not want to try and at least trade out the asset for an extra pick at the draft, even if it's a late round pick? It's like when Hyman said he wouldn't sign with us in Florida and we knew he was going to the Leafs. Well, at least we got a 6th round pick out of it. It's a swing at least, but you have to manage it that way, because you don't want to be held or sit there July 5th holding an empty bag.
So under your assumption then, that if Marner and Tavares aren't going anywhere throughout the summer anyways, then what happens to Bertuzzi and Max Domi here? How high can you go? Can you bring both of them back, one of them back, none of them?
So I think Marner is open to the conversation. Just for clarification, I think Tavares is a no. I think you have the conversation with Marner, and that's where it starts strategically. I will say this: if they both say no and they're both back, even if you're going to look to make a hockey trade in the summer or a training camp, whatever the case may be, after Marner has the summer to stew on it and he's really not feeling welcome, human nature has to factor in there, right? When you're not welcome somewhere, or it's not that he's not welcome, it's just that the team needs a change, and he looks like the sacrificial lamb. So, it's going to have a monstrous impact on the Bertuzzi and the Domi situation. So, like in my books right now, Domi was the best version of himself, fellas, in the tail end of the season. When he played a more steady, elevated role in the lineup, you got the best hockey out of him. So if he's willing to come back with a little bit of term, with not too much of a raise, I have to say, because he's not a pure 2. He's not a pure 2. I think he had 47 points this year. So the argument could be made, if he's stuck in the second line, he could have been a 60-point guy. We might be able to say that. I could convince myself of that. But that's not a high end 2. So there's going to have to be a value in that contract for Domi to return, because we absolutely have to look at our back end still. It's redundant. I know it's a conversation. And let's not forget about this. Joe Woll, I love Joe Wall, but he's been made of glass so far. So his contract's fantastic. We need another guy to come in. Are we looking at somebody who's a veteran guy who's got a year or two left on term, i.e. a Saros, who's going to cost you more money down the road? Or do you shop in the waters of an Anthony Stolarz in Florida, who had fantastic numbers? He plays the game the same way, sort of, as Wall, that big body goaltender. I know this doesn't sound like it might be important to people when they listen, but I would present to management that your defense, and you guys have both played the game, when you have one guy, a goalie who's super athletic, messy in the crease, if you will, he's a wanderer, butterfly athletic, and then you have the other guy who's that composed, between the post guy. The way that you guys defend and approach the game in front of them is different for both. I don't think that anybody can deny that. If you can have a two-headed monster in the net with size and the same sort of style of play, I think that benefits the decor as well.
We're talking to Jason Bukala, former NHL scout, now writing for Sportsnet.ca. So, Books, you're factoring in the, if Marner does get traded, that's 10.9 that you can save on your cap. But 4 of it's going to a raise for Willie Nylander. 2's going to Austin. Is there enough left over to go service your blue line and get Max Domi to re-up?
Well, if it's Domi over Bertuzzi, depending on what choice they make, I think Domi's going to come in cheaper than Bertuzzi. There's not enough of a difference between those two in my estimation, so I go Domi to save some dollars. The reason I do that is because my first target on the back end, if he hits free agency, and there will be a lot of teams after this guy, but I'm shopping for like Brandon Montour. We need a guy who can not only transport the puck, but quarterback the power play differently than what we have right now. Like for me, guys, Riley, I struggle to call him a pure power play quarterback. It's he had 173 shots on goal. I don't think he rips pucks necessarily. Like, it doesn't stand out to me as an asset. Montour rips pucks, and he's just one of the guys that I'm using as an example here. Of course, you could trade for somebody as well, but those are the types of things that I have to see what the lay of the land looks like, see what the cost association is going to be. Because in Florida, I believe they're not going to have room for both Reinhart and Montour. So all things being equal, it's pretty hard to give up on 58 goals this year. Mm-hmm. So he probably Montour is the man out there.
Kip, to your point there, like also the cap will go up an additional $4.125 million plus that money. So you would have a lot of money to play with. The other question I have is if any of the players the Leafs have coming could potentially take a spot. You're looking for guys to play on the cheap. That helps you out. Cowan, Minton seem like potential names. I think Robertson could score you 25 plus next year. I think Liljegren is probably going to, once again play regular minutes. You have some guys playing cheap, but will they have more coming with guys like Cowan and Minton?
Minton's going to need time in the minors. That's my estimation. Okay. For what he's going to play, he's a 3, and to play a 3, you're going to match up against middle 6. I'm going to need you to take up some time on the penalty kill, win key faceoffs, all these things. I think he's capable of that, so he might get a cup of coffee, but I think he's a recall guy more than a regular next year. Cowan, on the other hand, I believe that Cowan can slide into the lineup and play even on the wing with a John Tavares. I've watched Cowan a ton this year. Obviously OHL player, that the kid just doesn't stop, guys. It's been ridiculous in playoffs, and he just keeps going and going. The nice thing about Cowan, and we've had this discussion before about Nyes tracks 200 feet. I think we would all agree with that. He competes from goal line to goal line. Cowan's got more upside offensively, but he also competes from goal line to goal line, and he can kill penalties, and he's quick to space on the forecheck. Like, he can create turnovers, even if he doesn't bump the way Nyes does. His quickness to space and everything else, in addition to his offense, he'll score more points earlier in his career than Nyes will. They'll just be different players. So there's room for both on the lineup next year on the cheap, like you say, Borny. The other guys that I think that on the cheap on the bottom end, I think Connor Dewar there's a role for Connor Dewar. He's got arb rights, he's RFA, he's 800 and whatever he is, 870. So whatever his number turns out to be, I like his up ice pressure. I like that he's involved. I like that he plays fast. He's got some tenacity. The one assist in the game against Boston, he boxed out in the crease. He was in the area. He does some things that to the naked eye, people might not appreciate. And he's 24 years old, I believe, turning 25. So there's a guy. Noah Gregor, 167 hits in limited role, plays with pace. Like, these aren't guys that are going to be, they're not the most exciting, they're not the icing on the cake to get you the Stanley Cup, but they're going to come at a cost association that's affordable. And sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And I think that those types of players fit. Some of the outliers for me, the Yarn Crooks, an outlier, his number's not bad at 2.1. It just doesn't do enough for me when the games get really hard. So is there somebody out there that might want to take that on in a checking role? I don't know. Time will tell. It's going to be interesting, but with the cap going up alone, just think of it this way. With the cap going up of it alone, that's a player, isn't it? So at 4.125 or whatever it is, you can actually get Dewar, Gregor, Cowan, and somebody else. They're all on your roster within that cap, just the rise in the cap alone. Those guys are on your roster with that, and Anthony Stolar's even. So there you got like 5 guys out of 20 just from the raise in the cap alone. So you can get creative outside that box.
Just one note on Cowan, and we've seen it over the years where Toronto gets really excited about somebody, and then the reality is they got to come in and get their feet wet. He's still eligible for junior next year. He cannot play in the minors. He's playing at about $1.75, $1.80. He's not nice at 2+. He's not a heavy guy. So you got to be careful with guys coming in still in their underage years here, Books. That's my first thought is protecting the asset instead of throwing him out there and saying, oh, now you're gonna play second line and you're going to do all these great things.
No, I totally agree with it. But that's the unfortunate reality. Like, when you trickle down all these conversations, Kipper, who are you going to call up from the Marlies to take on the role? Like, I really like Jacob Quillen. I think Jacob Quillen can push for a job. I like Alexander Steves. Like, these guys are gritty, fast. They're older. They can play a role. Bobby McMahon, let's not forget, he's on the rise, right? So there are situations here. I don't want to eat our own. So I totally get it. Like, if Nyes is a Great Dane, Cowan's a Chihuahua, right? So they're just going to approach the game differently. That's all. He's really quick, though. He's quick and he's in and out. And he had a great camp last year. He's had a fantastic year here. And this is what stinks, fellas, about the AHL junior rule, doesn't it? Like, we need Cowan to play 20, 25 games in the minors next year and be able to play NHL games. It stinks that it's set up this way because, honestly, like, we had Owen Tippett back in the day in Florida. We had to send him back to junior. I'll tell you, like, the Tip, we had to, I don't want to say we had to whip him like a racehorse, but it was hard because he was just too good for the league, and they start to lose their attention to details. So if he earns the job, I think he's going to be ready for it. If he earns the job, and I think he's very close, Kipper.
I think we got to go, Kippy.
We got to go, Books. And we can do an hour and a half on this. Hey, great really job as always, man. Really appreciate your time.
Awesome, guys. Talk to you soon. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Books. Appreciate your time.
Books. All right. Well, talk about the Leaf captaincy tomorrow.
Oh, well, we can do it now. We got about 2 minutes.
Do we?
When do we get to make fun of the Bruins?
Next hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next hour.
Time for that.
So is it that natural to just hand it over to Matthews as early as September?
So the other options are Riley.
No one.
No one.
No one.
No one.
So then, yes.
Like,
he's the face of the franchise.
I know he is, but is he a natural leader to you? Has it always felt like this was his team and he is the face of it, like through and through, from puck drop to the end of the game?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's definite flaws in that logic.
Are they all following him?
Yeah.
Are they all in on him?
I don't know what they're following him to, but they're definitely following
Correct.
him.
Yeah.
Or
do you just give it to him and say it'll naturally come?
Grow into it.
I think, Keith Pelly was very clear saying that we're not trying to just sell jerseys, but I think they'd like to sell the 34 with a C on it.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen,
Just win.
It's lit. That's where it's headed.
Sure is.
That's where it's headed. Okay, don't go away. When we come back, Kevin Lowe is going to join us. Edmonton Oiler. Great as they're in a bit of a pickle, maybe a hole? No,
A dilly of a pickle.
no, not that bad.
It's a pickle. It's
Is
a
it?
real pickle.
All right, we'll find out how big of a pickle it is when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne after these words. Here we go. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, David Sisboomba. A national hour on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Wherever you're watching, live on Sportsnet, Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. Glad you're along for the ride. This hour, Real Kyper and Bourne, brought to you by Bet365. In a few minutes, we'll welcome in 6-time Stanley Cup champion, Hockey Hall of Famer, Kevin Lowe. We'll talk a little Oilers, talk a little Vancouver Canucks.
We should have come into the streets
A
have no
lot.
name today.
But, Sammy, we got some breaking news.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Carson Soucy got a game suspended.
Yeah.
Can't cross-check people in the face, guys.
That's safe.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
you can. It's just
This
gonna
is
cost you a game.
cross-checking.
Right. That's a great point.
Yeah, you can. Don't say you can't.
Right.
I hate it when people say you can't. And it's like, we just watched it.
He did
They
do
said
it.
you can. So, like, what do you mean you can't?
You can't do it and go unpunished.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
That's what you have to say then.
Technically, then you can do anything.
So watching the play,
Yes.
it is initiated by Connor McDavid swinging his stick wildly. Zadorov,
What do you mean it's initiated?
that's how it started. Behind the net, Connor McDavid swings his stick wildly. Hold on. Zadorov comes in and gives him a shot in the back, which he got suspended for 5K. He got fined.
Yeah. But it
Carson
wasn't
Soucy.
a domino effect. It was
Carson Soucy does not go anywhere near McDavid's face if that cross check in the lower back doesn't happen. His stick was at
yes.
waist level.
Yeah.
He was protecting himself from a wild slash by the best player on earth. So the cause and effect, he got cross checked in the face, he got suspended a game. But if I was a Vancouver fan, I'd probably be a little bit pissed.
To me, it's like shooting your gun wild aimlessly, and if you hit
Well, you're
someone,
not allowed to have a cross check when the guy's swinging his stick at you?
it's
In
same with a high stick,
play-
Sam. If you have a high stick and it hits someone, it's reckless. You have to control your stick. So if you do this and someone hits someone in the face, you're on the hook for doing this,
Anybody but 97, it's a fine.
Agreed.
and that's fine. But I think the
okay.
league itself should do that. We got to protect our stars. Our can't touch a quarterback. You can't send a text message to a quarterback, let alone hit them. And that's fine. They're the stars of the game. He's the best player on earth.
But I mean,
He deserves an ounce of extra protection.
sure.
It's not upsetting to me. I mean, that's not the worst thing.
No, I'm just defending it.
Anything more than a game.
But that to me is secondary to the Vancouver Canucks making this, I mean, a hell of a series now. We got
Oh, yeah.
something going on here. We got some juice. This is real. This is sustainable and repeatable.
Yeah, this makes
You
it
like the juice, huh?
makes it feel like it's a must-win for Edmonton. They got a lot of firepower there. They got a power play that's over 50% that still has an impact here.
Over 50%, and they're losing.
Yes, they're losing because they can't get a goalie to be a top 3 star.
Top 3 start.
Well, you just need to be one of 3 best players on your team.
The goalie.
Yes.
If he was an 875, they'd be laughing. He's a 790.
I'm just that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. It's a huge problem.
It's a big problem right
And-
now.
I think Frank Saravalli had an article on Daily Faceoff today where he said the sample size is not small anymore. He's played 15 playoff games, and he has the worst save percentage of any goaltender to have played that many playoff games.
So then they go to Pickard, I guess, for game 4?
Yeah, just move
Not
on.
a chance.
I'm with Kep.
Not a
Not a
chance.
chance?
Not a chance. For me, not a chance.
I think there's a chance, bud.
Oh, there's chance, but I don't think they'll
Yeah.
do it.
They're having a long meeting today about it. Guarantee.
Yeah,
I think
you're right.
I think the mere fact that they pulled him in the 3rd period, but the game's not out of hand.
4-2 at that point.
4-2. To pull a goalie at 4-2 is very significant. So you really took a chance there because if Pickard comes in and lets one goal in, just one,
It's over.
It's over, and he didn't. So the effect of Skinner not playing the 3rd is equivalent to him thinking about almost not playing the next game. So the psychological effect that you had on a goalie that you're not good enough, and like Skinner should have been embarrassed to be pulled at 4-2. Mm-hmm. You're pulled at 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. You're not pulled at 4-2.
Vancouver didn't pull Shelov's when it was 4-1 the other night.
So I think whatever message you wanted to send Skinner that you need to be better is now ingrained in him, and you got to come back to him now.
I'm with you. We got Kevin.
All right, let's go to Kevin Lowe. Lowe Z, why don't you just pick up this conversation on who would you start next game? How's that for an opening question?
I missed the early part, so I'm going to beg forgiveness and not chime in. But I do agree. I think they got to go back with Stuart Skinner. He's been their goalie. He has proven that he's been able to rally. And although I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be fearful having Calvin Pickard in there because he's played well for us. But I think just overall, the easy discussion is to pinpoint the goalie. But there's some egregious errors that happen before some of those goals that need to be cleaned up. So it doesn't even have to get to where the goalie has to stop the puck. So overall, I think I don't think anyone in that dressing room should be feeling comfortable the way they played the other night. I don't think they didn't look prepared and ready for the onslaught of Vancouver when they started the game. And they should have been, because that's all Rick had talked about for a couple of days was to play a more aggressive, meaner game against the Oilers, and they delivered.
Yeah, coming out of the gates, you saw both Lindholm and I forget who it was, and Joshua both hit Ekholm. It's hard to think Ekholm's ever been hit in the same shift, which is uncommon. He went on, he had a great game, he scored a goal, and it didn't affect him, but certainly a different Canucks team. Are you seeing something from the Canucks that the Oilers wouldn't have expected?
No, I think the Canucks beat the Oilers throughout the regular season. Yeah. And, we can look to the fact that it was early in the season. The Oilers weren't playing that well, but I mean, I admire what Rick Tocchet's done. He obviously played the game. I wasn't as tough as him, but I liked the way he played the game. I think I tried to play the game firmly and hard. Obviously skill's a very important part of it, but he had those guys fired up for that game, and they were ready to play. I'm not saying that the Oilers weren't, but I think the Oilers were a little surprised by it. So I think the response needs to be, hey, they're not going to turn the Oilers into the 72 Flyers, but it's the playoffs, man, and everybody's got to finish their checks. And if they think that they just start with that, and I mean man-to-man, I mean, I'm not talking about Leon and Connor. I think Connor had four body checks himself. But I think down the roster, some guys got to look at themselves in the mirror and say, forget about the scoring. Go out and play the game right. Finish your checks. Play hard. And I think eventually the skill level of the Oilers will take over. They've proven that in a couple games. They outshot them badly. I know the Canucks might have been sitting back on that lead, but when the Oilers get fired up, it's tough for the Canucks to compete. But when the Canucks bring it into a muddy track like they did early in the game last night, the Oilers got to respond.
We're talking to Kevin Lowe, 6-time Stanley Cup champion, Hockey Hall of Famer, and once upon a time a teammate of mine in New York. So, Lowe, we're seeing kind of a night and day style of play when it comes to the regular season at times, and there's a lot of games, no question, but the tight checking, the physicality that you see now, and the effect that it can have on your star players. And, we've seen it over the years in Toronto with sometimes Matthews, Nylander, Marner not being able to break out. We've seen 2 games already in this series where McDavid is pointless. And I'm just wondering, in your early days with the Oilers, with the likes of Coffey and Yari and some of the greats, Glenn Anderson and 99, of course, like was that the case back then where the attention to detail was so great on the stars that they just had to find different ways to produce?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, absolutely, Kipper. I mean, Wayne Gretzky never scored a goal in the Stanley Cup Finals, I think, until I want to say Game 3 in 1985. He went scoreless. And that's an unknown fact. And of course, Wayne did everything and he won the Conn Smythe, but you got to find a way to battle through. And sometimes you can go through these things. I mean, everything is compounded because it's the playoffs and you only have so many games to do it. And I don't think that, and there's more emphasis on what's happening, the camera angles and the stuff, and they're emphasizing the stars. If they aren't producing it, why is it happening? I don't think Susie meant to cross-check Connor in the face last night, but that's something people will be talking about, how abusive the playoffs can be to the stars. But hey, listen, if you want to win the Stanley Cup, you got to find a way through it. And the refs, I mean, they do as good a job as they can. They miss a few things, but by and large, everybody's playing within the rules. The game within the game, as you know, Kyper, the pushing and shoving after the face-offs is you got to figure that part out, and the little cheap shots when the refs aren't looking. But hey, it's not an easy trophy to win, and if you want to win it, you got to figure out how to do it.
I am curious to get your thoughts on Vancouver and Edmonton in the third period last game. There's sort of this idea, Edmonton really took it to Vancouver. I think the shots were 22-3, but a lot of the high danger chances, I think, were like 1-1 or 2-1. Vancouver really packing it in against the Oilers. How do you break through that? I know it's been a wall for the Leafs that we've talked about. It's just when another team is content to just sort of pack it in, block shots, what are the best avenues to break that?
Well, when you're leading in a game and your game plan seems to be effective, it's easy to stay in that in that tightness that you're talking about. They're not going to, they're on their game plan. They're going to stay that way. It's working. So, I mean, the key is to come out of the gate and get them on their heels. Generally when the Oilers are playing their A game, particularly at home, they come out and outshoot the opposition. They're ready to go. And the speed, and they finish their checks, and they're a great home team. And as I mentioned earlier, I just think that they're on their heels a bit early, and then Vancouver, hey, the puck went in the net. I don't think it was terrible goaltending by Stuart Skinner, but at the end of the day, you got to make a save or two to sort of help get your team back on track. And I think once you do that, then you got to put some not some fear in the opposition, but you got to get them out of their element where they get behind, and now they got to score a goal. And then that opens, that's what our team's strength is. When they do get the opposition down, they can really finish them off.
Losey, one of the things throughout the regular season I was questioning on is the depth of that blue line. But, it just seemed like once Ekholm really came in off of that trade, and it's kind of just reset them all. Maybe you can just speak of how you've watched that blue line evolve over the last few years, and maybe what Paul Coffey has brought as well.
Yeah, Koff's done a great job, and just in some of the basic common sense things about the game, for instance, if a defenseman makes a play that, looks egregious to the fans, but it was the right play, he just didn't execute it. Koff will, reaffirm that, no, that's the right play, just execute it the next time. I think our defense get too much criticism, to be honest. I think, there's so much emphasis on analytics and all those crazy stats. And at the end of the day, if anything I'd want out of them is, safe plays, a little more physicality, make it a little tougher on the opposition. They move the puck overall as a group well. And as you say, a lot of that changed when Matthias Ekholm came. I'm just loving watching this guy play. He's as good a defenseman as I've seen play for the Oilers, since Chris Pronger. So, I figured it was going to be a long series, and the Canucks are a tagger, and the Oilers are down now. They're going to have to, again, put their big boy pants on and come out and win a game tomorrow night. But I think there's enough desire in the room to want to win a cup, and that's half the battle.
How have you felt about the Oilers' depth forwards? Draisaitl and McDavid played quite a bit last game, 29 minutes plus each. That puts a lot of pressure on them. Are they getting enough support from the guys beneath them?
Well, they were like behind,
and
those guys were dominant. So, Yeah, but those are bad. Those are not good minutes for those guys. They can't sustain that. That's a recipe for disaster. And again, in fairness to the bottom end guys, they get some criticism because they're not producing, but they're not on the ice. But at the end of the day, a little less worry about producing, scoring goals, that is, and a little bit about getting out there, finishing your checks, making life difficult on the Vancouver's defense. Make them play in our end a little bit more and soften them up, and that allows the big guys to come out and work their magic.
I got to ask you about the power play running over 50% here, and you had Gretzky, you had Curry, you had Koff, and you're like, this one's better, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. They're feeling it, They're feeling it. They obviously. They've got, what I like about them, they have so many options, right? And they all can score. Ekholm, when he's out there as well, but, when he gets out there for the second part, but, the Bush bomb and Nuge is the bumper a lot of times, but I mean, he can score goals. So it's hard to believe that they're doing it at the pace that they are, because we just haven't seen that ever, really. But let's just hope it keeps going for the Oilers' sake.
How have you felt about officiating in the series? I think some Oilers fans would like to see a few more calls for their superstars. How have you felt in general?
It's always, when you lose a game, it's the official's fault. Someone high up in the NHL world told me a long time ago, and this isn't a slight against the officials, they like to keep the same amount of marbles in each pocket, so
sure do.
You can almost bet, and again, I'm not suggesting they did it on purpose, but because of what happened in Vancouver, the missed call on the Quinn Hughes high stick and a supposed slew foot, you knew that the refs were going to be watching closely. Again, I'm not suggesting they went out to call penalties, but they certainly weren't going to miss any. And in terms of the Stars, it's playoffs. It's playoffs, man. You just gotta fight through that, and eventually you keep playing that, playing hard and playing as well. If we're talking about particularly Connor and Leon, the refs are going to catch the opposition doing what they do, and the opposition are going to push it too far, and they're going to get called, and hopefully the Oilers score on them.
I don't want to age you here, Losey, but like, you watch in every year this time of year in Edmonton and the tailgating parties and the ice district locations and all of that. Just, man, it must be a great time out there.
It really is magical. I have to say, I'm so fortunate to be here and watching it. But I see it from a different lens now. Really, I see it, how important it is, obviously, to the fans and to the players, but I see it for the economy, for the businesses, for the taxi drivers and the bars and restaurants, and just for the general well-being of the city. It's so critical and so exciting to see when the team is playing. So that's what I hope for now. Of course, I want to see Connor win a Stanley Cup because he's deserving of one, because he's such a great player. And that's how, as Wayne Gretzky told me many years ago before he won a cup, that was his ultimate wish, was to be able to say lifted a cup like Bobby Orr and Beliveau and all the greats before him. But I really, Daryl Cates and the Cates group did an amazing job. The ice district is, so exciting. There's thousands, 15, 20,000 people just around the rink, which is kind of cool because, not everyone has a ticket or can afford the price of a ticket. So they can be part of the atmosphere. It's really special.
Well, listen, if you find yourself in Toronto in the next couple of days, I can get you a cab like that here. They're not busy at all here. A reservation. Anything you want.
I was actually cheering for the Leafs. First time ever, I have to say. First time ever.
Didn't help, Losey. You won a bunch of cups. You couldn't help the Leafs.
Losey, we'll take any Stanley Cup on Canadian soil anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Losey, thanks for doing this, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey.
Always great to see you.
Yeah, anytime, you guys.
Thanks for your time.
Right. Edmonton Oilers great, Kevin Lowe.
So This
So-
series is fascinating to me. What do you got?
Well, just officiating and
Yeah,
like,
I got to tell you,
it's always
kudos
the
to these
case,
two
though.
fan bases.
It's always
They
the
are
case.
losing their mind.
It is at like a fever pitch. This is excellent playoff.
This is awesome.
Like it's back and
Okay.
forth. Like McDavid's talking about the cross check today. Then apparently the media wanted to talk to Zadorov, and like the representative said no, they didn't. He didn't talk.
Good.
Like it's just this is
Sounds like traffic is through the
Vancouver
roof on
wanted
all the columns.
the hearing before media availability.
Vancouver wanted the
The
Hearing
hearing
first.
before, yeah.
Why is that?
They wanted it out of the
Wanted
way,
answers,
and they wanted the answer,
Mm.
and I don't know what was said during media availability, so I'm not privileged to that information, but I would imagine it was just to probably think that if a one-game suspension was coming, they get to voice their displeasure on an off day.
The one thing, so leading into the series and even during it, I've said that I don't really see a way forward for Vancouver. I thought that Edmonton was a much better team, and I thought that was going to play out. I'll take my L there. I was wrong. Happy to see that we've got a great series on our hands now. There reaches the sample size where you have to sort of reevaluate. And what Kevin Lowe just say, the Canucks are 6-1 against them this year.
Mhm.
And to me, when the score is close, like in the first period, the Canucks come out and control the shots. Like they look like a team that
That first shift was peak playoff hockey.
unbelievable.
They're just everybody's cross checking and fighting, and there's the
Yeah.
two hits, and they take it to the net. Like they came out hard immediately.
And so it's really hard not to notice that the Oilers are having a tough time 5-on-5. Yeah, when they're behind, they're chasing the game. They're great on the power play, and they're great chasing the game. But they haven't exactly looked like, boy, they're going to get this series the way, even when it was 1-1 Boston, Florida, it was like, it's Florida.
Mhm.
I don't feel that way.
You start puck watching in your own zone, and Fogel ends up coughing one up the middle there. Those are
They got finishers. Besser can shoot.
game-changing, series-changing moments.
I mean, Skinner let in a couple softies last night, but I have a hard time.
I didn't like the one
Fourth
far post
On
either.
Besser?
On Besser.
It's a pretty good shot.
I mean,
He gave him so much.
There's a lot of net there.
He lost his net.
And actually,
Okay.
he doesn't
lost
get it
his
off
net.
the inside post.
It's
It's
not-
inside
it's
the
not
net.
post in there.
No, it's not.
I mean, I have a bigger problem with Fogel tossing a pizza into the middle and then having
sure.
it's a world class goal scorer between the hash marks, beat him low glove. Like I have a hard time killing him for that one. People will, but man, Besser, Lindholm,
Yeah.
and it's not even Pettersson. That's the crazy part.
It's
like
funny
he
that-
scored or whatever in the other game, but it's just
Yeah, they're winning without him.
he's barely noticeable out there. They brought up some guy from I'd never even heard of him
Yeah.
from the AHL to play with him.
It's so funny that Besser was a guy who was kind of widely known to be available, and he's become such a crucial piece for them. I think we need to discuss the Shilov's reach back grab of Derek Ryan's stick while the puck is in behind him.
Saved
Is
the
that
goal.
not holding?
Saved a goal.
Yes, it's a penalty. It's an unbelievable play. Great presence of mind.
It's
but
a holding
it's an
penalty.
Absolutely a penalty.
For sure.
That's the first thing I thought.
How do you not see it?
I think because a referee has literally never seen that play ever in the history of the game.
Good point.
And they're like, oh, what is happening? And then it's over.
It's like something you do playing with your friends. Like,
I don't know how he had the thought to do that, but you're right. It's definitely a penalty, but I don't blame the ref on that one. They're like, how am I supposed to, what
to
happened?
Shilov's
got
credit,
some
he
puck
sees like
luck,
he's in the
though.
moment.
He's got some puck luck too.
Yeah.
Oh, they beat him to
the
Oh,
the
the
Carey
couple
Draisaitl
times.
post, the Kane
yeah.
post.
Yeah.
What was Draisaitl's line?
It's not good goaltending. The post hit inside of
Yes.
the post is not good
It's
goaltending.
not. It's not good goaltending.
I
Yeah, you don't
apologize.
need to be a good goalie to.
They're definitely going to score 8 on him at one point in this series. It feels
It
like.
does feel
Yeah,
like you're-
there's one of these games. Like I think it's
Where
going to be
they
a
fill
close
up the
series and it's
basket.
go far, but
He's picking pucks off the goal line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
feels like a
off
bunch
Corey
are going.
Perry.
Yeah,
It just
like-
seems like nothing.
I'm just saying I can see a world now where Vancouver is hanging. They've got some breaks. They've got maybe some
Yeah.
officiating. It's gone their way.
How about Zadorov? Just putting a big, strong man into the bench.
just the presence like that he has,
Yeah.
and just the aura that he carries.
Stud.
It's impressive.
Yeah. Love
It's impressive.
He seems very comfortable in the playoffs in this type of setting.
Yeah.
And I'm not, everyone calm down here.
Mm.
There is something Zdeno Chara like about having a guy who can slap it in the net, slap you in the face, not afraid of anyone. Like,
Just
he's a little
having-
bit more
yeah.
mistake prone, but
Having the biggest, meanest,
yeah.
strongest guy on your
nice.
team, it's great. Like, it's got to be great.
I actually wonder about his number this summer. He's a UFA, is he not?
UFA.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder what his number
Can't
is.
wait
old is
for
he?
Tree to
Because I
overpay
got
him.
to tell you,
29?
Can't wait for Tree to overpay him.
Zadorov age is 29.
Just mentioning Zadorov, the counter to the Soucy argument, because like I have so many Canucks people on my Twitter. I don't know how this has happened, but like Riccio and Sadie Rashad, all these guys, they're talking about Hyman coming in late on Zadorov and cross-checking Zadorov right in the mouth, which is equally as egregious as what Soucy did.
Yeah.
And that's hot with the Canucks right now. They're saying it's even worse. And watching the replay, it's really bad to me. So if you're going to suspend the guy a game for cross-checking McDavid, you're literally doing the cause and effect of like, Soucy's not the star, so he's not getting a game for it. Like, you're watching it happen in real time. I'd be sour if I was a Canucks fan watching it.
Yeah, sure.
But-
You're making a
just-
fine point.
Suck it up and take it because nothing's changing.
So they're not going to review the
no.
oh no! Well, he cross-checked him in the face. The other guy got suspended a game just because McDavid, untouchable McDavid.
I haven't noticed that. I'll have to watch that again
Old
for
tou-
me.
Untouchable McDavid swings his
If you
stick
haven't
around like
noticed
a
it, no one's
Paul
really,
Bunyan.
Right.
you know,
Canucks
up in
Twitter
arms.
noticed it. Dan Murphy put out, boys are hot out in Vancouver. I'm
Okay, all
telling
right,
you.
But it's going to pass.
Okay.
It's going to pass.
This
Yeah,
too.
when Hyman scores a hat trick next game and they lose, they're going to be really happy. They'll
This is-
forget about it.
This is the Sam Bennett moment. You don't suspend Sam Bennett, and all of a sudden he scores a huge goal, which was also controversial.
Was that like even up call after he threw Kane in the bench? Like, was that
Oh yeah,
A bench minor?
The Oilers got a bench minor for
for what?
Holding on to him. I don't know.
Somebody did.
They did
I-
hold on
I-
to him, but anyways.
All right.
I feel like I'm a Canucks homer here, but I actually am kind of more on the Canucks side of it. But
Listen,
whatever.
They hate you. You're just a
Who?
Leaf guy to them.
I don't know if they do.
Sam,
Text in from Vancouver, you hate me or
Sam
not.
doesn't normally do officials talk, but let me tell you, he's got thoughts.
I do. I think Zach Hyman should be suspended a game if Carson Soucy suspended a game.
Oh my god,
I
have
do
to
think
watch
that.
this again.
Okay. Go to Dan Murphy's Twitter. You'll see a great
I'm
video.
on it. I'm on Dan Murphy's Twitter. Let's go.
We do not agree.
Let's take a break.
Take a break, and
Yeah.
then you got game time after the break.
Sounds good.
Oh, we got to talk Boston and
Aarif Deen
Florida.
is going to join us, right?
Yeah, we'll do a bit of Colorado. We're
running out
jam
of
packed.
time.
All right. Plenty more still on Real Kyper and Bourne. Don't go away. 2 games on tap tonight. Tune right into Sportsnet, and you get them both. Carolina at New York and Dallas at Colorado. To help us tee up that game, let's go to Aarif Deen, Avalanche beat writer for Mile High Sports, host of Hockey Mountain High Avalanche podcast. Aarif, how are you, pal?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
We're good. We're good. So, Colorado at home, down 2-1. We were talking about the Oilers feeling it at their next game. Must win kind of feel for you at this point?
Yeah, I would say so. I think this kind of gives me a lot of memories of past Avalanche series where they've lost, where it kind of culminates to it. You know, if you go back to 2021 against Vegas, you can even look at last year versus Seattle, where the Avalanche have a strong game one and they look like they're going well. And then you see the other team start to do the things they want to do, and then they perfect it, you know, almost nearly perfect in game 3, what we saw from the Dallas Stars. And if the Avalanche don't break out of that habit tonight, I think it's game over for them. They're going to have to find a way to get through this defense, to get to Jake Ottinger, to get that traffic in front that we didn't see a lot of in game 3, and to really have to make Pete DeBoer and the Dallas Stars make the next adjustment.
So, what are your biggest concerns for the Avalanche at this point?
Number one is Jake Ottinger.
Yeah.
I think he's been exceptional. This isn't quite, going as well as it did against another guy in Connor Hellebuck from the last round, but ultimately it's the traffic in the crease and getting to those big bodies. I remember having a debate with somebody about a month ago when it kind of became clear that the same deal the Avalanche made to bring in Sean Walker, the first rounder, and Ryan Johansson, there was like murmurs that they tried to do the same thing to bring in Chris Tanev. And that seems like the difference, because that guy in front of Jake Ottinger right now is not allowing the Avalanche to battle in front. It was the main reason why we saw Val Nichushkin held off the score sheet for the first time in the playoffs. It was a main reason why Nate McKinnon didn't score on what looked like an open net on a one-timer, because he got in the place in front of the puck. He's either blocking these shots or he's clearing the crease for Ottinger and making his night a lot easier. And he's not the only one doing it. It's all the Stars defenders right now. And I think that's the biggest concern. The Avalanche were able to crash the net and to get in front of Connor Hellebuck. If you remember him saying, I didn't see half the goals that went in. They're not doing that with Jake Ottinger, at least not in this game.
You mentioned Nichushkin. I think mid-January he entered the NHL PA substance program or help program. Did you see this at all? Maybe not so much coming back, but coming back and dominating the way he has, putting the puck in the net?
It's hard not to see it at this point. I mean, we all remember what happened last year in Seattle and kind of spent the entire summer wondering if this guy was even going to be an option. And then he comes in at the start of the regular season. At the time of him entering the player assistance program, I believe he had 21 goals in his last 30 games. He was leading the NHL, I think up there with Sam Reinhart, tied for first in power play goals. And all of the whispers of what had happened in Seattle, nothing really got to him. And again, when he went into the assistance program, he was playing great. And it just kind of felt like this guy's just a good hockey player. No matter when he plays, he gets it done. We saw what he looked like in the 2022 series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. You ask a lot of the guys in that room, McKinnon, Cogliano, even Kel McCarr, a lot of the leaders in that room will tell you when it comes to that final series, specifically against the Lightning, Nichushkin was their best player. Then in Seattle, he scores in game 2, helps them win that game, and then disappears. The Avalanche fall, and then he comes back against the Winnipeg Jets and continues to do his thing. So it's a pattern here. Every playoff series you see out of Val Nichushkin, he seems to be getting better. It's hard to say that it's surprising at this point. The toughest thing for him in the Avalanche is keeping him in the lineup, keeping him mentally and physically healthy to stay in the lineup. Because if he does, $6.125 million in the prime of his career, you have a steal, like one of the best steals in the NHL probably there.
Yeah, it's almost like being gigantic and very fast is a helpful tool in the playoffs. He's very effective.
He's so good at taking the goalie's eyes away. It's incredible.
He's a horseman. He plays in that area of the rink. What about at the other end, Georgiev? Has he lived up to expectations in the postseason so far?
Yeah, he's really calmed everything down. There's an alternate universe where Justus Annunen doesn't get sick on that road trip heading to Winnipeg and wondering what could have happened, because I remember I didn't travel to Winnipeg like this series, and I remember the day before game 1, the Avalanche practice, and Annunen took a lot of extra reps because Gorgie was the first guy off the ice, and it was a short practice because they were taking a flight to Winnipeg right away. And he seemed fine. And then suddenly he's not there for game 1. The Avs didn't even take their third stringer in Prosvetov. They took the fourth stringer, not expecting him to even dress. And now he's on the bench. And Winnipeg enters the third period leading 4-3. They quickly make it 5-3. They quickly make it 6-3. And I genuinely feel that 6-3 goal would have been the time to pull Georgiev and put in Annunen had he been there. And then there's an alternate universe where the Avs end up losing 7-6. Georgiev ends up letting in the 7th goal. Well, what if Annunen doesn't end up letting in that 7th goal? Right. What if the game goes to overtime 6-6? What if he plays well? What happens for game 2? But by not having him available, by not having that competition, Georgiev has really calmed things down. We've seen him do this over the last couple of years. Every time he has a tough stretch, he follows it up instantly with one of his best stretches in the NHL. Or at least with the Avalanche. The biggest question is, how long can he hold that stretch? It was 4 games against Winnipeg. It's been 3 against Dallas. 7 games he's either played above average or pretty good average. How long can he hold that? Because against this team, you're playing at least 2 more, maybe 3 or 4 against the Dallas Stars. And the guy on the other side is playing really well. So he's going to need to keep doing what he did in game 3, because he was really good in game 3. Maybe not as good as Ottinger. He didn't face as much, but he kept the Avs in it until they were able to pull their goalie down 2-1.
We're talking to Aarif Deen, Avalanche beat writer for Mile High Sports, as we get ready for Dallas, Colorado. So, Aarif, not too many series over my years I've covered where two powerhouses get together here. And one of them's going to go home disappointed here in terms of Colorado, if that does happen. And it's considered, I guess, a failure to lose in the second round here. Like, what kind of fallout would there be, if any at all, based on the fact that you're also playing a team that's favored to win the Stanley Cup? So, like, how do you see this thing playing out if Colorado does find a way to lose this thing?
It's honestly, it's going to matter how it happens. That's going to be the biggest takeaway. Like, if you're the Winnipeg Jets, I mean, you've probably said it on your show, but since maybe November, every single person had to have at some point said something along the lines of Dallas, Winnipeg, and Colorado are atop the Central Division, and you want to do everything in your power to not be in that 2-3 matchup. You want to be the team that gets a wild card, not knowing the wild card's going to end up being the Cup, champion Vegas Golden Knights, but you want to do everything to stay out of that. Well, Winnipeg comes into the 2-3 matchup. It's not that they lost to the Avalanche, it's how it happened. It's the fact that Hellebuck let in 24 goals. It's the fact that the Avalanche scored 6 and 7 and 5 goals in every single game or whatever it was. That's going to be the case here. The Avalanche won game 1. They trailed 3-0. They luckily were able to win that game. They were down 4-0 in game 2, and they came back and made it a game. They let in the first goal, they trailed, and they chased the whole time. If they lose tonight again, where Dallas takes a 2-0 lead and kind of locks it down and wins 2-1, and then they go back to Dallas on Wednesday and Dallas takes a 1-0 lead and shuts them out 1-0. Like, you play a whole series where you never once played with the lead, because they haven't yet to this point. The Dallas Stars win 4 straight on you. Like, if it's kind of something like that where you're like the Winnipeg Jets, kind of have your hands up, like, what just happened? I think it'll be a lot worse, and it'll have a lot more ramifications than if, it's a tough series between two teams where one of them's got to win and one of them's got to lose, something similar to what we just saw with the Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. So I think it is a tough team in the Dallas Stars. It's the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and you just played the Winnipeg Jets and, beat them in 5 games. It's not about if you lose, it's about how you lose. But alternatively, if you come out of this series as the team that was the lower seed in the 2-3 matchup and you managed to beat the 2 and the 1 in the Central Division, you're looking really good going into the Western Conference Final.
Well, it sure feels like a must-win game for Colorado.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, Aarif. Thank you for joining us, man. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Thanks, Aarif. Good series, that one.
Yeah, I can't see Colorado coming back, winning 3 in a row.
No?
Low tonight.
No, if they lose
yeah.
tonight, yeah.
Right?
I was going to say, I can see them winning a series, so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they got to win tonight.
Yep. Game time?
Yes, sir.
Game time.
It's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app's latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So 2 games tonight. As we know, we've been talking about the Stars in Colorado. Carolina and New York tonight at Madison Square Garden. The New York Rangers have the chance to move on to the semifinals. They are minus 105. The Carolina Hurricanes are minus 115. I think it ends tonight. I think that I do like the Rangers in that, and you could even convince me into, a under in that game. Feels like it's going to be tight. Shesterkin's been red hot. Maybe the other way. Maybe I don't know who they're going with the net, but it's a close one. And
That's the scary part for Carolina, right? Like, are you going to get the goaltending?
yeah, and even the goal. My reputation is so tied to bad
The failing
Frederick
of Freddie
Anderson.
Anderson.
I was out on Saturday night and I didn't watch any hockey. And I looked at my phone and I had like 7 or 8 texts, including Steve Alakette was texting me. Like, I had DMs from people like, "Did you see that Freddie goal?" I was like, "Oh my God, was it that bad?" Anyway, so yeah, you worry about that. And the Dallas Stars are pretty big. Well, not pretty big, but they're underdogs tonight. Plus 115. The Colorado Avalanche are minus 135. Bet365 expecting the Colorado Avalanche to get back in this series tonight. And that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay. Don Sweeney, general manager of the Boston Bruins, made some noise today. Just stop it. Stop it over there. This is your only chance to save any Toronto Maple Leaf face right now by making fun of Don Sweeney.
That was the press conference.
Before we get into his specifics here, like, it's no different from any other playoff year where we pick apart what we like and don't like about officiating. This isn't any different from any other year, is it?
It's not. No, it's such a fantasy.
But it's
that,
happening
like,
to the Boston Bruins, so they have to come out and cry about it.
Do I need to call you a
Okay,
ambulance?
I think it's somewhat justified, but anyway.
All right. So, most controversial play was the Sam Bennett goal with the shove.
Oh, is it the Sam Bennett goal or is it
well-
the Sam Bennett punt?
Let's just play.
Where do you want to start?
Let's play the first
Whatever
clip
it
from
is, it's
Sweeney.
Sam Bennett
Yeah.
Let's play from the first clip from his general thoughts.
on officiating.
Yes. So let's start
Okay,
there.
Let's go.
We're not in a position to be criticizing, the officials and league-wide such. That's standard protocol. We'll get fined as a result of that. So there's no intention of my point to be critical. The overall premise that I have is, to be perfectly honest with you, we should not be asking the coach after a game what they feel about officiating and what happens. You guys should really be focused on, what we didn't do well enough in the course of the game and win a hockey game. Those questions should be directed at either director of supervisor officials, supervisor series, and or the officials. You want full access, and transparency, then put the officials in front of the microphone to answer the question, because they're the only ones. Hold on, they're the only ones that have the experience to be able to handle, whatever interpretation they applied to Rule 69 in that case to answer your question. That's it. So the rest of us, we have, clearly we challenged it because of our interpretation, right? Yeah. So the only ones that can answer that, don't put out a statement, just stand in front and answer the question. That's as simple as that.
Combative.
I mean, he went with like the fan take. That's every fan's take. They should put the refs out there to talk to the media after.
But
Why? I hate this. Why? So they can be like, it was a good call. And then everyone's even more mad. Like, it's the stupidest thing ever.
The statement that they put out is equivalent to them standing up there and saying the same thing.
That's what they're going to say.
Yes.
So
I was doing the game last night, and we called the situation room when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So get them on the phone. What'd you see? Why did that call go that way? And, it's a subjective call. It's a close call. But in the end, you're allowed to have a little bit of a fight in front of the net, whatever. It's not like you can't touch someone. But the biggest thing is that Swayman is fully extended. He has no momentum going that way. He's not going to make that save. It's called a goal on the ice.
Yeah.
They call it a goal. I see a lot of people going,
Coyle had a better chance to come back and make the
for
save.
sure. Yeah, Coyle, could have turned and whatever, but you can't just get touched and go, into the goalie. There's some. I
didn't mind the non-call.
Yeah, so I actually agree with it.
We're all in agreement that it was a fine goal.
Yeah.
That'll make the Bruins fans happy.
We're not here to make them happy.
But I thought it was fine. I think you should be stronger
But
in your
people
skates.
act like
Bennett's
there's a
stronger.
conspiracy.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
There's no greater.
Did you see that?
They made a judgment call?
The cross-check on Nurse last night? The shove?
Yeah.
It's bad call. Like,
yeah.
They've gone, I don't know where they think they are with the cross-check shove.
The cross push.
The cross push.
Yeah.
And it's like, let them battle.
Mm-hmm.
Let them
Please,
battle
let
a
them
little
battle.
bit. For sure.
Sam Bennett is
the wrecking machine.
nail gun. He is ruining the Bruins franchise. He's got the general manager coming out crying.
Hey, he ruined yours last year.
He's good at what he does.
He's doing what Tom Wilson did to the Rangers.
He makes people mental.
He's like, they don't know how to act.
Yeah.
They don't know how to act.
And you're the Bruins, and all Florida does is score on the power play, and you're like, we got to get.
We're the maddest guys
We
here.
got to get Bennett, and it's like Bennett gets 20 goals a year.
Yeah.
Maybe go do hockey.
Bennett, you're going to try to hit him?
Yeah,
He's
he's
good
made of
luck.
dark matter. He's the densest person on earth. Okay, but let's just talk about it. Cheap shot on Marchand. Do you think he threw the punch? Should it have been?
It was a little rabbit punch.
Yeah, and do you
This
see the
is not
comparable
a
to
hockey
Matthew
play.
Nye's play? Did you happen to see the video?
Yeah. The right hand gets a little frisky.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He knows what
But
he's
he
doing.
disguised it beautifully. How is it like?
It's a dirty play.
So
Oh, it's a dirty play like 2 days later. Here we are in the world of like 70 cameras and angles and
Slow-mo
HD.
instant
And now
replay.
Now you guys bring me this 2 days later. Like, where were you after the game? Where were you the next day?
Nobody saw it.
Well,
Nobody
then
saw-
don't bring it up
And-
2 days later.
And you know what? The Bruins
It's
didn't
too
say
late.
anything. The Bruins didn't say anything because they let a player play through what was obvious head injury. Right? You talk about concussion spotters. Marchand couldn't get to the bench after that hit, and they were like, he's fine.
Would you like to, Derek? Could you please play Sweeney clip 4 for us?
We did not get that until later on.
Talking about that angle.
Again, if you had it earlier, maybe you would have passed it along, but clearly somebody did, and they passed it along. We felt that way all along, but that was more definitive to us as to what transpired.
Do you know if the league had that view?
Can't speak for the league.
You can call like an offside within like a hair, but you guys can't find different angles of this till 2 days later.
It's funny. I heard Biz talking about it on Spit and Chicklets or whatever, and he said their camera angle, it passed in front. The camera passed right in front of a stanchion exactly as it happened, so they weren't able to get whatever look they had.
He hammered him. Should have got a game. Should have got a game or two, maybe.
It should have been a game.
Yeah.
The reason
It was against a guy who's done that 100 times in his career to other guys.
Well, that sure
There's
you can
something
call it
some saying,
karma,
but
but you can't. That
If
doesn't
I'm
make it
Sam
legal.
Bennett and I see Marchand coming at me, I don't know if he's going to hit me high, low, or lick me. Okay? So
he
I'm
just as
okay
well
with
could have punched him in the
with a
face.
little rabbit punch.
But it doesn't make it legal, clean, whatever.
No.
To me, it's like if you don't get a lid on Bennett and he's emboldened by this, you're creating a monster right now.
No, the monster has been created,
Yes.
but it's out the.
He needs, to be put on a leash or something. I don't know.
We all
He should-
want him on our team.
Sam Bennett should have to wear a bell, like a cat on the ice, so everyone knows where he is at all times.
The things I would do to have Sam Bennett be a Toronto Maple Leaf are.
Well, Kip says the Leafs didn't want to give up Nick Robertson for him 2 years ago, so too bad.
And who was the guy that traded him for nothing? Oh, is he running the Leafs?
You told me you were all excited about Brad Tree living. Now you're telling me you gave away Sam Bennett.
Maybe you want that one back, Tree.
Yeah. But so it is going to be interesting to see, Frederick had made some comments like,
You want to hear Pat Maroon?
yeah.
Pat Maroon was crying about how the media is making narratives he's not doing enough.
Oh, yeah. Do you have that?
we
Sure.
have that. Sorry, yeah, we have that too.
It's frustrating that you guys are trying to do a narrative right now for nothing, to be honest. Like, we got to win a hockey game. That's what it comes down to. Unfortunately, what happened, we got to turn the page. We got to find a way. You can sit here and say I'm not doing my job. Maybe I'm not. But like I said before, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. And I don't want to put my team in jeopardy. I don't want to take a suspension. I don't want to put my team on a power penalty kill. I'm doing everything I can. So we can sit here and say I'm not. Maybe I'm not. But I talked to my captain. I talked to the guys in that locker room. They know, and they know I care. And that's the most important thing.
Wow.
They're unraveling.
He's trying his best during warm up. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean,
That-
why would Bennett in a million years? fight him?
No.
In a million years.
That reminds me of when someone says something that's not really about you, but you're like taking it personally. It's like my wife were like, yeah, the garbage smells. And I'm like, well, you're not taking it out either. It's like, no one said it was your job to do it.
It's not just a blue job.
Yeah. But no, it's no one went at Maroon and was like, we didn't mention how come Pat Maroon hasn't done that yet? It didn't even cross my mind that it's his responsibility.
I think it falls on extremely deaf ears from Bruin fans, and they're like,
Buddy,
Sam Bennett's got to fight.
listen,
Brad Marchand never
I
fights.
got news for Bruins fans. They're not that good.
Yeah, you guys stink.
Okay.
You beat the
No,
stinky
they don't
Leafs.
stink, but
They beat
they're
the
not-
stinky Leafs, and now they're going to get crushed by the
Talk
good
about
team.
unraveling.
Listen, they've had a great goalie for 2 rounds so
He's been
far,
unbelievable.
and there's not much more he can do. But hey, no Krejci and no Bergeron.
They still beat the Leafs,
Okay.
boys. And now they're crying.
All right,
They inherited the crowd.
solved nothing. But thanks to Jason Bukala in the first hour. Aarif Deen from Colorado helped us tee up tonight's game. And 6-time Stanley Cup champion Kevin Lowe. Good show today, guys.
Good work, team.
Not bad, eh?
Who needs the Leafs?
I don't know. Feel it
Hey,
now anyway.
Sammy, we're going to turn you into an NHL guy. Might take me years to do it. It's my job.
Okay.
Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow on Real Kyper and Bourne. Have a great night, everybody.